Juvena Huang, the Wandering Wasp. Thank you for talking to me. I've been wanting to do this a long time, ever since I came across your story on Instagram and I think it was on YouTube a number of years ago already. And I was actually quite intrigued by your story because here's this young girl from Singapore, establishment, boring, routine Singapore, that is doing this amazing trip around the world. And you're doing it by yourself on a Vespa, a classic Vespa, to boot, a very old one. And I was trying to get in touch with you for a very long time, and I want to do this interview in person, but we can't anymore because of lockdowns. So here we are on Zoom. I think the best way for us to talk about and introduce your story is for you to talk about how you started in riding and how and why you started riding motorcycles, of all things.
Well, I think that will have to go all the way back when I was a poly student. So I was around, I think 17 or 18 years old when I first traveled to Vietnam with my schoolmate. So that was the first time I traveled without my family. But without traveling without the security and comfort of having your own family members, is that you get to really go out there and explore by yourself with your friends. So I remember we were at this hill town called Sapa, and my friends and we got to know a few Hmong girls, the tribal Hmong girls. They were selling their souvenirs on the street. We got to befriend them and talk to them, interact with them, and I realized that our life path and expectations we are very different. So that kind of ignited a curiosity in me, because having grown up all my life in Singapore, what I only know is like the only way that we are taught to live, which is to study, get a career, marry, settle down, have kids, that's all. So that kind of ignite a curiosity to find out more about the rest of the world, because it is not all the time like that for others. So that trip actually made me want to explore more. I actually thought of traveling around the world for the few years, going hobo, but I never really done that. I didn't really do that because I was quite afraid. But what came out of the Vietnam trip was actually to get my motorcycle license, because in Vietnam I got to see lots of scooter going around the streets. So I thought it would be really fun to be able to have your own bike and just explore a country by yourself. So when I came back to Singapore, I decided to get my motorcycle license. So the first bike that I got was the Vespa scooter, because I was just graduate. I don't really have a lot of money, so I just got a cheap scooter for I think around 2,000 Singapore dollars at that time. Yeah, and that's how I started riding, and it was through riding that I got to know a community of bikers from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, and all of them, they have like very interesting characters, very interesting aspirations, or even career. Some of them, they like to travel long distance on motorcycle. So that was how I started riding when I was 20 years old.
Yeah. So the thing is, a lot of people have traveled, right? And they've been abroad and they want to go out and see the world. But almost all people, they do it in a holiday. They do it 3 weeks, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and then they work and then they go on leave and then they go on holiday, right? So that's the normal route. But knowing what I know, because I read about some of your postings from a few years ago, there was something that triggered your trip to go solo, right? I think it was a friend of yours that you were riding with, and he passed away or something in a car accident, or that made you question, the practicalities of life, and it was quite existential. Was that the one thing that triggered your decision to go abroad, solo?
Yeah, that is actually one of the main trigger for me to really just drop everything and just go. Because this friend of mine, he's a very encouraging figure in my motorcycle endeavor. So I used to ride dirt bike too. So I thought I was too short handle a dirt bike, but he encouraged me to do so. And when I was like struggling and people like telling me I got the wrong bike, I had a KTM 200 at that time. People are saying, oh, the bike is too tall for you, it's too powerful for you to handle. And then he said that, hey, don't listen to them. You just need more practice. Just get more practice and get used to handling the bike. Which I did. So I didn't really sell it immediately. I got used to it. I even take part in enduro and motocross competitions on the KTM 200. And for himself, this friend Lawrence, he's also a very intrepid character. So he wanted to ride from Singapore to China border with another good friend of mine. So previously he has done trips to North Thailand and all. So this time around he want to aim for China border. So it will be he will be passing through Laos. And just a few weeks before he was about to set off, unfortunately he passed away in an accident while driving a van. It wasn't a motorcycle accident. It was while driving a van. And his passing was really an epiphany that life is really very short and uncertain. So the life path that I've been brought up to believe, like the single track path to success about getting good grades, good job, having a family and settle down, I thought, is this really what I want or what society wants of me? So I think I really asked myself at that time, is this really what I want? But actually I look back at that dream of trying to go travel the world when I was 17, 18 years old, that trip to Vietnam. I want to enact that dream again. I really want to do it before, because I don't know what will happen next, you see. If I don't do it now, when will I ever do it? Wait until I retire. When I retire, by the time I'm 50, 60, I don't think I have the youth and vigor to do it anymore. So I really want to take the chance now. Now the thing is, what the asset that I have now, okay, I don't really have a lot of money, but the asset I have is my youth. And I don't really have liability. So I don't have like children to look after, and my parents, they are still very independent. So I thought, I should do this as soon as possible instead of waiting for everything to be perfect, everything fall into line, and then go. So I decided to just make do with whatever I have, trying to save up the money, even working three jobs in a day to save up the funds before I set off. And actually this trip was supposed to be with friends. It started, I think this idea came about when my friend and I were talking about Lawrence, and what he stands for, and his spirit of adventure. And then my friend suggested, why not ride beyond Indochina, right beyond Southeast Asia? Because so far I think for most bikers in Singapore and Malaysia, we like to ride to Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, right? Anything beyond that is it requires more commitment, and it's more unknown. So my friend suggested, hey, why not we ride all the way to Europe? Not just do Southeast Asia, go beyond that. Then it was like, okay. I thought I was really intrigued by the idea and I really wanted to do it. So I set myself a timeline, a target, to set off. But don't talk about this 2-year trip. When you go on your usual vacation, you have friends, right, who wants to come with you. You're like, let's go to Japan. And then when the date of departure draw closer, your friends started backing out because they have other priorities and commitments. So I kind of like expected that I will end up going alone, because my friends, their circumstances have changed. So I was prepared to go alone because having to go alone is not an excuse not to go. If I were to wait for someone to come with me, maybe I will not be able to set off. Yeah. So if I waited, maybe by now I still haven't left for my trip.
Correct. And a lot of people, myself included, When you're compelled by your parents and your society and peer pressure to go to school, then go to university. Then once university ends, then the expectation to start working is there. So there's a few windows only, right? Between school and university, and then between university and starting work. And so many, especially Asian children, they never take that gap year to go. Unlike a lot of like European or North American students, right? They have that gap year, which we don't have. Culturally, we don't have that gap year. And you see so many kids who are like 17, 18 years old or 23, 24. They're traveling the world. So I found it very unusual for someone like you to make that decision, right? And to basically go it alone. But not only did you go it alone, you did it on a very old Vespa, right? Not a new Vespa, an old Vespa, right? So henceforth, the name Wandering Wasp. Wasp, of course, is Vespa in Italian, right? Tell me about that part.
The part about going on my Vespa. Okay. So that late friend of mine, Lawrence, he said it is the rider, not the bike. So, well, for his own adventure, he also used, small bikes like Kapchai, ride all the way to Thailand. Then for Laos, he was actually wanting to ride a DRZ 400, which is a supermoto bike. So that is his belief. He thinks that it is, the rider being able to adapt to whatever you have to just go on a long ride rather than finding the right bike, the perfect bike to go. For me also is a very practical option because of budget. In Singapore, vehicles are not cheap. Yeah, and then the paperwork involved to bring vehicle into different country, it is carnet de passage. So at that time, if I were to ride a big motorcycle, which is above 400cc, I had to put a 30,000 deposit for this document. But for my scooter, even though it's an old scooter, I still had to put 10,000 Singapore dollars for the deposit.
Holy shit, man. That's huge, man.
Yeah, so before I even set off for my trip, already one third of my travel budget is really dumped into this deposit. And the thing is, yeah, at that time, I mean, the rules are always changing, because when I first decided to do this trip, right, the carnet de passage, it was based on the vehicle value. So I thought, okay, just go on a cheap bike, then I don't have to put so much deposit. But I didn't expect it to, they changed their deposit loading after some time. So I ended up having to put a 10K deposit. So when I was crossing crossing from Myanmar to India, so the immigration custom, they saw my document and they saw the value of the vehicle. It was 10,000, and they find it very amusing because
I find it amusing.
mine is an old scooter. And because I was crossing Myanmar with other bikers from different parts of the world, so because Myanmar you have to engage a guide to cross the country, you are not allowed to do it independently. So I had Malaysians, I have Australians, Germans, Russians, Indonesians with me on the trip, and some of them they are riding all these big bikes. Among all the bikes that were there, mine was the most expensive.
Really, literally, in terms of the carnet,
Yeah.
is it?
Yes, the carnet. So actually, a few months after I crossed that border, there was another Singaporean who crossed that border. The immigration, the custom officer actually told this Singaporean traveler, say, hey, a few months ago there was a Singaporean lady. She was crossing this border, and you know how much her scooter is worth? It was 10,000 Singapore dollars. Wow, it was a joke.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they could remember it, the value, yeah.
Okay, so since we're on the topic of the whole issue of funding the journey, so yeah, because there's a lot of people, right? Even though they want to go and they can go and they've got the courage to go, then they don't have the money, right? So how did you manage to accumulate the travel funds at that age? Because I think at the time you're only about early 20s, right?
I was 27, so I started saving when I was like 24. I was working a few jobs, so I moonlighted. So on top of my full-time job,
Everything that you made, you just put towards your savings lah for the travel, right?
Yeah, so I have like two bank accounts. One of them is my travel funds, and then we try. I so every month I will just put aside money into to this account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just quickly, right? What was the route that you took? Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, then Myanmar.
Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar, Northeast India, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Iran, Armenia, Georgia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Serbia. So I was in Serbia for quite some time. So I took I traveled by land to Hungary and Romania. So it was without my scooter. Then I also went to Bosnia Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, Kosovo, Albania, Greece. When I went back to Albania, I took a ferry from Albania to Italy. And Italy, I went up north to Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and then to Germany, Austria, and Czech Republic. Yeah, so my scooter is still in Czech Republic.
Wow. So you actually spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe. Was that intentional? And how much planning did you do on your route before you left?
I think for the planning wise, I only planned until Pakistan. After that, I just wing it.
Okay. So which one is better? Which way is better, to plan or don't plan?
It's really up to you. For me, because I had the luxury of time.
So that
So
whole
actually,
trip,
I feel that
the whole trip until Czechoslovakia, how long did it take?
27 months.
Wow, so that's a long time. Over 2
I
years.
didn't even plan to go 27 months. I thought I'll be okay. I think this route that I'm taking, maybe I'll take 8 to 9 months. I really didn't plan to go on 27 months, but it turned out to be 27 months, and I realized I can survive with very little on the road.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about the trip in a little while. But then in terms of the whole traveling solo as a female thing, right? That I guess that could have been a big thing before you left. Just the fear of going alone. A lot of people saying, "Oh, you gotta watch out. You gotta, care for this, care for that." What are your reflections on that? Traveling solo as a female, as a girl.
So I get two very different response from people around me. So there'll be one group that say, "No, don't do it. You're a woman. You're going alone. It's too dangerous." And there's also another group that they are very encouraging. So they're like, "Oh yeah, do it. You'll not regret it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very life changing." So usually the ones who say don't do it, they are the ones who have never done it before, and the ones who encourage me to go are the ones who have done it before. So actually in 2008, there was a Singaporean couple who traveled around the world on a motorcycle as well. So they are kind of like my shifu. So I always approach them for advice, and whenever they host passing travelers in Singapore, I will go to their house and also meet up with people who are actually doing it, who are actually on their journey. So yeah, the people that I met who are doing it, who have done it before, they always encourage me to go and not to cave into fear.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. So from time to time, I check in on your Instagram, right? And one of the things you talked about was obviously that when people are on the road, people are very friendly. They're exactly opposite to what a lot of people are afraid of, right? People are afraid of being attacked or burgled or robbed or or worse crimes on the road. And I think other than a couple of instances with a couple of guys in Iran or something, most of the time, most of the people you met were actually very good. So just in terms of lessons learned on the road, right, Juvena, how do you deal with your daily routine as a girl? And obviously you've got your things to do, and then also what kind of tips and advice can you give to other maybe aspiring girl riders that might want to do this trip, maybe solo or maybe a couple of girls, I think it's great. I think solo female travel is fantastic, but maybe they want to go with a couple of friends as well. So what kind of advice would you give to them?
Okay, I think this advice I've given it so many times, but I think I will have to share it again. I mean, it's not even just for traveling, but anything that you want to pursue. So before setting out on a journey, do not seek advice from those who never left home. that is the
So true. So
most
true.
basic. I mean, even if you want to like start a business, you want to learn how to cycle, you want to approach those who have cycled before, those who really have the experience, so they are able to give advice that come from a place of experience and not from a place of fear. Yeah, because sometimes I just feel that fear, it can be an
It's
illusion at
crippling.
time. It's very
Yeah.
crippling, it's very limiting.
Yeah.
I think what this journey has had taught me is I'm really much capable than what I thought I was. I didn't know I can do so many of these things, like repairing my scooter. I left Singapore a mechanical idiot. I didn't know how to fix my scooter. But after 2 years, I was a roadside mechanic. Like my throttle cable broke. I was able to just stop by the roadside and get it fixed. Tire punctured, get it fixed. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
I didn't know I could do that. So I didn't know that I can adapt. I'm very adaptable to changes. I can connect with people very easily. So the people that I've met, the families that I've stayed with, they all say, you are very easygoing. You're like not fussy about things. So yeah, so these are the things that I realized about me because I tried going out there and put myself out there to try different things. And that's when I know that I could do all these things. Because if you never try, you'll never know.
What about practical tips like sanitation for oneself as a girl, hygiene, things like that? Or what about things like eating, preparing your own food? Maybe do you cook your own food, or do you always search for eating somewhere? Do you have any dietary limitations? Maybe you don't eat meat. Maybe for example, and then also in terms of safety, right? How do you like mitigate the chances of the risk of being burgled, right? Those kind of like real practical tips. What advice can you give?
Okay, so I think what helped me most of the time is situation awareness, being aware of your surrounding, and you also have to observe what the local people do or not do. Some of the things right we are not used to. It can be a cultural false parts over there, but for us it's normal, right? So things like if let's say in their culture, um, men and women they don't go and hug each other as a greeting. They are conservative. Then I wouldn't let a man hug me. But in Italy, it's very different. It is, I mean, hugging is very normal. It's a common greeting. So these are things that I observe. If this is not something that you do in your culture to the women in your society, then you don't do it to me. Yeah. But of course, sometimes I feel that there's a bit of double standard in how the local women are treated and how a foreign woman is treated. Because when you're a foreign woman, you come to a country as a guest, they do not hold you to a certain expectation as they would to a woman. So like for me, traveling as a woman in some of the very conservative country, I was able to step into two worlds. So like motorcycling is a very male dominated space. So I was able to enter some of the space in very conservative country. And for me, I get to also meet the women, the family members, the mother, the daughters. And while I was interacting with this German guy, he was in Pakistan the same period I was, and I realized that our travel experience can be very different. A lot of families open their homes to me because it is less imposing to host a woman in their homes because of the female family members. But for him, okay, there were some that opened their homes to him, but when he come home, he never sees the wife at all. It's like every time he come back to the host place, like they had the wife away. For me, I was
Oh
able to go
wow.
into both space. Yeah. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So I think that is one advantage of traveling as a woman because it's less imposing to people, and I mean as a woman I'm less intimidating as well. So if I break down on the road, if my scooter break down on the road, right, I think people are more likely to come and help me than like a burly man.
Yeah, definitely less imposing and less intimidating than like a big 6 foot German guy with like a BMW 1300cc GS, whatever, right? then even if when you come into town, you're like, oh, this guy is so Haolian, right? Oh, with his big bike and noisy, rather than like a little Chinese girl on a little Vespa, some old Vespa, right? Very much more welcoming. I think that's one of the things that BK Lim, another guy I spoke to, he's from Penang, grandfather, when he rode around the world to London, Downing to Downing Street, he went with a whole bunch of other old guys, all in their 60s and 70s, on kapchais. And it's so easy for them because they're so unintimidating, so people are more welcoming of them. But then in terms of things like, say, maybe like food, right? How do you do your food? Did you cook on the road, or did you go and search out for food? Was that a culinary experience for you as well? Things like that.
Yeah, it actually depends on where I travel. So in Asia, it is usually very cheap to eat out. So I would I mean I don't mind eating out. It's more convenient and food is really cheap. But as I was approaching Europe, things starts to get really expensive. It's very expensive to eat out. So I tend to cook and pack my own food. Yeah. So I'm a vegetarian. So but sometimes I'm a bit flexible. Like if really there's no choice, I have to eat meat, I will just eat meat. But if given a choice, I will choose not to eat meat. So at least I learned how to express my dietary preference in the local language. Like in Persian, I'll say bendu ne gush, say without meat, without meat.
Okay, so you learn the lingo on the road, lah. That's quite cool. Then in terms of like health and sanitation, right? I think guys almost take it for granted that we can go anywhere, right? Anyhow, just zoop and then off you go, right? Maybe it's a little bit different. I've got female friends of mine who won't go and climb or even do hikes in Nepal because like once you get into the higher reaches, like sanitation is an issue, right? How did you deal with that? Like you can't shower sometimes, right? How would you deal with that?
Yeah, well, shower really sometimes a bit difficult. Okay, so when it comes to the monthly period, I would use menstrual cup. I think menstrual cup is a lifesaver. Because pad can be very inconvenient. It get fills up very quickly. You need to change it frequently. Um, and one thing I also don't like about pad is that it's not very environmentally friendly because you're disposing a lot of plastic waste. And then tampons, you can't keep it there for too long because there's also the risk of the toxic shock syndrome. Mm. And in some conservative countries, it's very difficult to get tampons because they think that you insert something in, you lose your virginity. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the conception they have. Like they still tie virtues to a piece of tissue or hymen. You break it, no, you are a loose woman.
Incredible.
So yeah, I mean I dealt with like all this really kind of very ridiculous kind of thinking, but that's what they grown up with. You see, believing all this. So we are all products of our upbringing.
Yeah. And also the environment, right?
Yeah, the environment. So I use menstrual cups, and menstrual cup
Okay.
is like you just put it inside there, and then you don't really feel it, and it can hold up the hold up the flood for quite some time. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you got to be quite adaptable on the road. Whether you're a guy or whether a girl, you just have to adapt to the circumstances. And I think in between, right? Sometimes if you take sorry, you're saying?
No, I have also one more device that I carry with me that is a urinary funnel.
Oh, so you're riding, you can just let go, lah, is it?
Yeah, so I can pee while standing up. I
Ah,
don't have to bear my butt in the mountains to pee. And I used it when I was riding in the Himalayan mountains because it is so barren. There are no trees, no bushes to actually cover up to hide and do it.
right?
No, so I have to do it by the side of the road.
Does that work for a guy as well? Because you don't have to go and stop and then put the bike on the stand.
Guys, y'all can pee while standing. What?
Yeah.
For
But then if
women,
you
we have to bear our butts to pee.
That's true. Did that a few times in Nepal as well, so it's a bit embarrassing, especially when there's no trees around, right? So you're like, shit,
Yeah.
just looking, right?
Yeah, so I use the urinary funnel a few times because in the mountains you have to drink lots of water so that you don't get acute mountain sickness. But the downside is you have to pee a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So So which parts? Because just now you reeled off all the countries that you travel, right? Which ones are the ones that stood out the most for you in terms of experience, in terms of the beauty of the surroundings, in terms of the beauty of the people? Which one stood out for you?
Stood out. Well, it's very difficult to pinpoint any one particular country because a lot of countries they have all their different beauties. Like for example, India, it is so diverse. I feel like I'm visiting multiple countries when I was traveling in India. And then for Pakistan, it's really the hospitality of the people.
Incredible,
Four
right?
and a
You
half
don't
months.
expect that in Pakistan, right? Because Pakistan's got like
Yeah.
a kind of like an image which is seen as negative around the world.
Yes, but you know those people who have been there, they're always telling me the different things. That's why I was like, okay, I want to experience it for myself. And true enough, they were right. Yeah, Pakistan is the northern area is very beautiful. The Karakoram Highway with the Karakoram mountain ranges and all. And yeah, people are really friendly. 4.5 months there, I hardly stay in a hotel.
4.5
I
months in
was
Pakistan.
hosted. Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a long time. People go around the world in 4.5 months sometimes, you know. Why did you spend so long there? And where did you go?
Because the country has a lot to offer. I spent, I think, like 3 weeks plus in the north because it was so beautiful. And the hostel there was really cheap. I went during the off-peak season. So it was like $2.50 a night for my dorm bed.
So you just like chilled out
And
during the
it
day.
was,
You just did whatever you wanted to
yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah, I make small trips, I explore, I go to the cafe, I meet up with the locals, just have a chit chat with them, have chai with them, and talk to them, and just know more about them, cook with them. Yeah, Pakistan was really amazing. Yeah, that's why I only planned to stay like 1 month because my visa was for in the beginning it was only for 2 months, but I managed to extend it to actually 5 months. But of the 5 months, of course, I cut short my trip. I only used 4.5.
You got to go to the local Singapore embassy lah, is it, to do that?
No, you have to go to the Ministry of Interior Affairs to extend the visa. Because I'm staying in their country, so it is them who decide whether I can stay. So it's not Singapore embassy.
I see. Okay. And then when you went from there into Iran and of course Central Asia.
Iran was very good too. Iran, I
Yeah.
spent 3 months plus over there.
Wow, 3 months.
And then Armenia and Georgia. I think Georgia is a very underrated destination. I spent around 6 weeks there. They have mountains, they have sea, and it's quite a small country, and it is a crossroad between Asia and the West.
A bit like
So
Turkey,
the
right?
yeah, a bit like Turkey, but again, it's not like Turkey because they also have like a bit of a Russian influence too. Yeah, so Georgia and the mountains, the Caucasus Mountain was beautiful and it's very affordable. So yeah, Georgia is one country that I really, if possible, I don't mind living there or working there.
Wow, that's a big that's a big endorsement of the country. Did you go through Turkmenistan at all?
No, I didn't go through Turkmenistan. Yeah. Then after that, it was Turkey. Turkey, I'm really amazed how the Turkey people treat animals. I've never seen a place where animals are so well treated. The street animals, they are weird. I don't call it stray, it's like community animals. And the animals, they're so comfortable with humans. And,
What kind of
and the
animals?
people are just so kind. Like cats and dogs. Right? Sometimes you see in other countries or even like in Singapore, the dogs, they're like, oh, they have scabies and all. But over there, all the animals are very well looked after. And you know the water spring in the park? So they had a water spring for humans to drink, right? They even built a lower one that's for animals to drink. Yeah, and outside shops, it's very common for shopkeepers to leave food and water outside their shop so that animals can eat. And at the bus stop, right, and even at cafes, and this animal doesn't belong to them. The animals will just sit very close to the human, and the people just don't flinch. Not like in Singapore, you're like shoo, go away. Like no, animals and humans, they're so comfortable with each other, even at cafes, at the bus stop. So yeah, I'm very amazed by how like the Turkey people, they have this culture of really treating animals so well. Mm.
What I
Then
liked
I was in
about
the Balkans also. Yeah.
yeah, no, what I liked about your trip was you spent a lot of time in like Eastern Europe, Central Europe, which is typically not many people, especially Asian people, right? Asian people think they go to Europe, it's like Paris, London, Munich, Berlin, Scandinavia. Then they think they've done Europe, but they haven't done Europe because they haven't seen Eastern Europe. And you spent a lot of time there, the Balkans, Georgia. I don't know whether you went to Uzbekistan as well, things like that.
No, I didn't go to Central Asia,
Okay,
but I would
okay.
love to visit Central Asia.
Yeah, yeah. So from Turkey, where did you head to?
After Turkey, I went to Bulgaria. And
Good
because when
wine.
I was living,
Good wine in
yeah,
Bulgaria.
yeah, actually a lot of places that are good wine. Like even Georgia, they have very good wine too. Because as I was leaving Turkey, it was November. So it was getting cold. Not very nice to be riding around in winter. So I chose to hibernate in Serbia. I found a hostel to volunteer for free accommodation. So I kind of like volunteer as a receptionist for around 28 hours a week. Then I get free accommodation there. So I was in Serbia for like 4 months. Mm, then I also did voluntary work over there. So after my shift, I'll go down to this abandoned barrack next to the train station to help out at this makeshift soup kitchen for refugees. Yeah. So and also I took the time to rebuild my engine too when I was in Serbia. Since I've had the time, I just give my scooter a good overhaul and learn more about my scooter. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. Serbia's the land of Novak Djokovic, right? Then from there, which other countries like stood out in your like imagination? When you recollect that trip, um, what other countries gave you good memories?
I think Montenegro is also a very unique country. It's very small, and you can have access to the sea and the mountains very easily. Yeah, Montenegro. Although I didn't really spend a lot of time there, but yeah, the bays, they were very very beautiful. Yeah, so these are some of the countries that.
Yeah, I think the experience of when you travel in places like that, right? When you're on a bike and it's you're exposed to the whole surroundings, the experience of traveling through a country on a bike is very very different from when you're in a car. Because in a car you're like, you're covered by a shell, right, behind a window. Even though your windows are down, it's a very different one. I also want to ask you, right? Accommodation. Did you spend most of your time in hostels, or did you do a lot of camping as well? How did you sort that out?
A mix. Okay, so it really depends on the country. So for me, when it comes to camping, I will either camp in a place where everybody sees me or nobody sees me at all. So India, I didn't camp a lot. I was staying in hostel and homestay most of the time.
Cheaper lah,
Because
right? Those.
it's cheap and the thing is you can't really find like a secluded place to camp because people are everywhere, unless you're going off in the mountains. But I started camping a lot more from Iran onwards. Yeah, so Pakistan, it was people hosting me most of the time. In Iran, it was a mixture of people hosting me, camping, and also hostel. Um, yeah, Armenia and Georgia, it was hostel and homestays. Turkey, I also camped quite a lot. Yeah.
So how does the process of hosting start? Because you don't plan to stay with the house, right? Presumably there's some kind of interaction, and then they say, hey, who are you? Where are you from? And then, where are you gonna stay? And then the whole process of, hey, why don't you stay in my house? Um, how does that process work?
Okay, so some of them are pre-planned. So, like for example, in Pakistan, it was the Motorcyclist Association of Pakistan that helped me with the visa application. So, because in order to get a Pakistan visa, you need a letter of invitation. So, I received a letter of invitation from them. So I remember the first day when I met the president of the club. He was saying that you are our honorable guest in our country. So, if you travel to any cities and we have member there, just reach out to us. We will be happy to host you.
Whoa, cool, 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 cool,
So
cool.
that's why in Pakistan, a lot of my hosts, they are also motorcyclists themselves. Yeah. And then in Iran, it's a mixture. Some of them I got to know them through other travelers. So actually, when I was traveling on the road, right, I also met up with other overland travelers, and we are traveling in the same direction. So sometimes they are slightly ahead of me, and they make some local contacts. Then they will pass me the local contacts.
Wow. So it's just very organic lah.
Yeah, or sometimes I was just like I was intending to wild camp in Iran, then I was paying for my food in the grocery shop, and then there was this family. They start to strike out a conversation with me, and then they're like, "Oh, where you going tonight?" Then I say, "Chador." I say camping, yeah, tent. He's like, "No, no, no, tonight my house, my house."
Wow, wow. And then the conversations and the stories you can have with the locals is amazing, right?
Yeah, so he was like, "Oh, my house." Then after that, I just went do my sightseeing. I explored the island. Then at night, I went to his place. Then he received me, and then he showed me where's the shower. I was like, "Wow, shower!" Because I haven't showered for a few days. Then,
It's a godsend, right? Yeah, you can shower for the
yeah,
first
like
time. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because I was wild camping for the past few nights. Then like, wow, shower. Then um he said, and then he showed me the kitchen and the food, and he said, "My house, your house, same same, you me."
Wow, Mikasa Sukasa.
Yeah, but he can't really speak English very well, so he just say, "My house, your house, same same, you me." Mm.
So the whole idea of hosting was not something which is prevalent in Asia, right? It's only once you went into like kind of like Iran onwards. Is that the case? Because Asia is very cheap to stay in hostels and chalets, right?
I find that this is very prominent in the Muslim countries
Ah, so.
like
So even though you're
Iran,
non-Muslim, is that
Pakistan.
okay?
I mean, for I think it's in their culture. Because whenever where I go, right, in these Muslim majority countries like Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, I always hear the word Musafir coming out. Musafir means traveler in Arabic, if I'm not wrong. So they say that in their teaching, all the guests they are actually angels sent from God, and as a Muslim, you are obliged to really take care of them very well. Yeah. It is a mixture of it's a cultural thing among I think in Muslim, and I've also talked to some in Pakistan. They say that Pakistan, because it used to be part of a Silk Road, right, and there's a lot of traders that pass by some of these major towns, and it's very common for them to open their homes to all these traders. So it is like kind of ingrained in them. And then also, the Pashtun people, the Pashtun ethnicity, they have a unwritten code of conduct called the Pashtunwali. So one of them is to honor the guests. So they have to give everything to their guests, which I sometimes feel a bit bad because I remember there was one guy, he wanted to
Yeah.
slaughter two goats to welcome me. Then until my host was like telling him,
No.
no, she's a vegetarian. Don't slaughter the two goats. So they feel, I don't know, there's this an honor code to give to their guests.
Fantastic. And then
Even
beyond
if
that?
they are your enemies. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
So if you go and watch the movie The Lone Survivor, it was about these American soldiers
That's right,
who
that's right.
was in I think Afghanistan. He seek refuge with a local guy, and the local guy protected him. Yeah, that was in their culture. Yeah.
That's right. The Lone Survivor. I saw that recently actually. So beyond past that, then beyond past your Muslim majority, like past Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, then into the Balkans. Then you did a whole bunch of countries there, right? And then you ended up in Czechoslovakia. What are some of the stories there?
So I think it would be my time volunteering at the refugee soup kitchen in Serbia. Um, that I think that experience was very, how to say, it was. I realized I'm really privileged. And to hear like how really young kids coming up to me saying they miss their parents. And then I thought of them, and when I thought of my own nephew and niece, I wouldn't want anybody to go through that.
Were they like victims of like conflict, of immigration or?
Yeah, most of them are from Afghanistan, and some of them, they are actually brought into a country by smugglers, and the family paid a lot of money to smugglers to get them into a country because they don't see a future for their children in that country, and they just want to put in all their hopes on that one child to get them to somewhere where they can have uh, a life. Yeah.
Yeah, because the country is war torn, right? Or maybe going through some conflict or some dictator or something. Um, how long were you there, and what kind of like experiences did you have?
mm, like dealing with people who have gone through PTSD, because okay, I was helping in the distribution of food. And then there was this guy who came over and snatched two bread. Actually, each person is supposed to get one bread. So I took back the extra bread from him, and he had a meltdown. So I didn't understand actually what happened. Like, why is this guy having a meltdown? And then I later learned that this guy, his brother was killed in front of him by the Taliban, and he was captured by the Taliban and imprisoned for I don't know how long, and I don't know what they did to them. So he, yeah, so that's how he ended up in Serbia. He's trying to get away from his country.
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Like it's like a war, something that war soldiers suffer from.
Yeah, and then I remember, because I always ride my scooter to the campsite, right? So I have my scooter. It has a lot of country flag, and all these flag, right, it meant quite a lot to me. Because these are flags that were the sticker flags are given to me by the friends I met in all these different countries. So it was pasted on my scooter, and then there was one day, a young boy came over. He started scratching the flag of Iran and Pakistan, and I was very furious. I screamed at him. I told him to go away. I said, "Why are you doing this?" I was very angry. But later I reflect back, right? And also, yeah, when I was helping over there, one of the things we have to do is also queue management control. So sometimes there were fights that break out between them. And I just kind of reflect on like what these people have gone through. Like, you may think that, yeah, they are very unruly, they don't know how to behave, they are, they are like that. You may think, yeah, you may pass judgments and say, yeah, these people, they don't know any manners, they are not civilized and all. But you come to think about that, where the place where they come from, probably some of those young boys, they've never known a day of peace in their life, and survival is about fighting to survive. So probably that's what they know. So I really wonder, being civilized, right, is it something that only those the privileged can have, right? If you grow in this environment where you don't know when is your next meal, you are worried about whether your life can be in danger, you're always in this fight mode. So who am I to judge them, for what they did and what they've for the things that they've experienced? Because I'm never in their shoe to judge them. I never know what they've been through. So yeah, and the thing about privilege, that me having a Singapore passport and being able to cross borders so easily, but for them, it can be a game of life and death. Because I think, no, and I remember there was a graffiti on the barrack. It says that nobody leaves home unless home is a shut of a mouth. I think these people, they really don't want to leave their home, but it was the dire situation at their homes that forced them to leave. And for me, I can just wave my passport and just cross border easily. But for them, sometimes they have so they call it the border crossing process. They call it the game. So sometimes they will say, yeah, tonight I'm going for the game. Game. So I have to give them their food first. So I have to give food to those who are going for the game tonight. And the game means crossing the border, trying to get into EU to seek asylum, putting up with abusers by the border police because they face violent pushback, getting beaten up by dog. Some of them even have to cross the frozen river. I heard of story about this young boy who fell through the icy river and he passed on. Yeah, he was gone. Yeah, yeah, so sometimes they failed their border crossing, they come back, they have bruises and all. So this is what they have to go through in order to find somewhere that where they are safe and live in dignity.
Wow, it's only when you go through experiences like that, then you realize, what we're going through, it's nothing to complain about, and these kind of trips are so eye-opening in that respect. Um, I guess you came back from this whole journey a different person, right? Just in terms of the way you see the world, in terms of the way you see what success means, just in the terms you understand what entails happiness, right? Did you come back completely
Yeah,
different?
and I really don't want to like complain about small things anymore. It's like no internet for one day, people complain. I can watch my Netflix on Sunday. I was like, uh, I feel some, but ever since I came back, I just feel this huge disconnection with people around me because I think I've seen things differently now. I cannot like relate to their mundane concerns anymore. Yeah, so sometimes when they have conversation, I'm just like,
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't understand. They don't have that light switched on. So how are you dealing with like society's expectations? Because you're back home in Singapore, right? And society still expects you to go through that single track journey, get a job, have a career, have children, get married, go and buy a house or buy an HDB, and then
I don't let that.
how are you dealing with
Uh,
that? It's like,
no, I just do my own thing. But it can be quite an isolating experience because it's like you're also cutting yourself out from the rest of the society in a way.
yeah, because most of society is like that, right? And there's very few outliers in that respect.
So what I do is I connect with people who are like me, who have like traveled. So when I was back in Singapore, I do host other travelers who are passing by Singapore. So they stay in my house and we have conversations. Conversation that I really miss when I was traveling on the road. Yeah.
Some of those conversations are like what kind of stuff do y'all talk about?
Mm, talk about people in different countries and how we view about, you know, many things, all the way from the idea of marriage being a social construct to how sometimes society can be seen as a cult in a way. No, I just had this like because recently I've been going on Clubhouse a lot because I'm not meeting a lot of travelers, but I was on Clubhouse and getting to speak with people from different parts of the world. I think that is my channel of outlet and inlet for information of that is going on around the world. So yeah, anything under the sun that we feel very passionate about. And right now I'm still continue to post my travel stories online, even though I've been back in Singapore for 3 years. But I still have a lot of stories and videos to share. It's just that I really need the time to put everything together and put them online. Because I believe some of these stories can be very valuable to people and how they can choose to live their life. Because like especially for women, when I was traveling in some countries, I realized that doing what I do, right, is something that is very difficult for them. Because again, this societal expectation of what a woman should do and their gender roles is very, very strongly ingrained in them. Yeah, I just like a few days ago, I was just sharing about things that women have told me behind closed door. Maybe these are things that they will never tell their husband or family members. Because I am a woman, a solo woman, I get to enter their space. They get to tell me stuff. So I was sharing online, and that sharing actually took a nerve for this young lady from Iraq. So she's a humanitarian activist from Iraq, Kurdistan, and she wanted to have a Instagram live conversation about this issue to share the hidden voices of women. So yeah, I'm planning for that. So we're hoping to have it this Sunday to have a conversation about this. Because if nobody speaks out about all these issues, nobody will know, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's only once you start to distance yourself away from conservative establishment society, and then you analyze our world, you know, through impartial eyes, you realize a lot of it is a construct. Whether it's the economy, whether it's the concept of money, whether it's the concept of marriage and children, whether it's the concept of like even faith, it's all constructs, and sometimes they're very convenient to the people who benefit from it, right? And I've been a student of that for a very long time, and the more you analyze it, the more you realize that there's winners and then there's losers, right? From this whole construct, and even people like Yuval Noah Harari talks about it, because at the end of the day, it's a story, right? Let's talk about money, for example, right? The US dollar has got no intrinsic value. It is only the faith that you have in it and I have in it, and that's what gives it the value. Beyond that, what is it backed by? Nothing. It's not backed by anything. It hasn't been backed by anything since 1974 when it's taken off the gold standard. And here we are. We're killing ourselves. We're stressing ourselves out. We're giving ourselves heart attacks and strokes just to chase that bloody US dollar, right? Or money generally. It's crazy. And people, they don't know that there's a world out there. They don't know that there's Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan and India and Laos and Cambodia. This whole world out there with real life people having amazing lives. And that's why I talk to people like you, because you give this view that most of society do not have. And that's why I want to encourage people to go and travel and see the world. And then in so doing, they come back with this 360-degree perspective of life, which is as it should be, not blinded by society's expectations, you know. So that's why I talk to people like you, because I feel that people like you can bring that perspective. I mean, people like me, I've traveled, but I've traveled in pockets of time, like 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, right? 27 months is a lifetime, For people, they can live an entire life in 27 months. You've seen that. I find that amazing.
Yeah, I think, I really learn to let go of a lot of things for myself after traveling. All this expectation of myself, and I try to steer my own road rather than to let society steer my road, my path. Yeah.
So what's next for you? Because you have a whole lifetime ahead of you, right? I presume you're only in your early 30s and you've got the rest of your life to go. So how has your journeys and where you are now, how has it informed you in terms of your outlook and what's next for you? Not just the next trip, but as a person, and maybe share your experiences with other people, right? Especially on the woman side.
I think we are stronger than we think we are, especially as a woman. I think for quite some times we're always told that we can't do this, you can't do this, and we actually let ourselves to really believe it, and we never really step out to try. It's only when we try that we really know. So if you never try, you never know. So like right now, I'm also like trying different things. So recently I just so ever since I come back from Singapore, I was a freelancer. So I was doing tuition, giving private tuition, teaching kids yoga, and sometimes I get engaged for speaking engagements, get invited to travel product launch. So this wouldn't have happened even if I did not let go of my past identity as I was doing research, so I was working in a lab, which is a very grounded career.
And
So I left that
background
to
as
travel.
well. Yeah.
Sorry?
And very background as well, right? Just like one of those introvert type people.
Yeah. Actually, I find that I'm an ambivert lah. So sometimes I really want to be myself. So I'm fine with traveling alone, but I'm always not alone. So if I want to speak to people, I sometimes do reach out to people and just strike conversations. And then I just gave up this full-time employment to take on a traineeship. So I'm also very privileged that Singapore has this program called the Youth Tech Program. So it is trying to help social enterprises to digitalize. and they want to train young people to equip them with the skills to help companies to digitalize. So I just signed up for that. So it is a 1-year traineeship. And yeah, I'm very excited to learn more because I want to be a digital nomad to be able to work remotely. So because last time, when I was traveling, everything is like I was like on a budget because I have to take note of my expenses. I don't really have like a stable income coming in. So I was really much dependent on my own savings and also sometimes some donations from my website. So if they want to buy me kopi, they can buy me a meal for $5. So I get a bit of support from my followers. But I want to explore other sources of income by being a digital nomad. So I want to start on this traineeship journey to learn the skills that will probably help me help me go towards that process.
Yeah, one of the YouTubers, I watch a lot of YouTube, right? And one of the more popular YouTubers that I follow is this girl called Nurali. Nurali is this Dutch girl that is also a solo rider, right? Itchy Boots, right? There's a channel. She's done really well. I think she's up to like maybe 800,000 subscribers already. I think she did have savings from before. What I know about her profile, she did have savings from before. I think she was a metals engineer or something, right? Then she saved up oil and gas or something. But I think her YouTube channel does really well for her, and she's a very frequent poster on her channel. So I guess that's another way for her to like generate revenue. And she's very similar to you. I think she might be a little bit older than you, but not much older. But she also does traveling solo. She did India, Royal Enfield. So she was a very ardent Royal Enfield supporter from way back when, and then now I think she's moved on to Honda or something, but slightly bigger bikes than a Vespa lah. But I think she makes a lot of money from her channel and from a digital revenue. It's interesting. I don't know whether you reached out to her before or not.
No, but I did follow her. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's possible, but it's not easy because I've traveled. And
yeah, and to
you
create
need to set
on the
aside
road.
time to edit.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's a
it's
big
not
thing.
easy.
You just gotta make sure that everything's proper, so your equipment is charged up, and it's no joke, man.
Yeah, and then when you're wild camping, it's like, when I'm wild camping, I have to switch off all my devices, my handphone, everything. So yeah, because I don't have electricity, right? So I think if you want to do it digitalize, all your income and everything, I think you have to take it as a job, no longer as a holiday. You have to really set aside some of the time to sit down, in a hotel or hostel. There's no interruption and just do your work.
Yeah. So I guess what's next for you? What's the next trip, and is it gonna take a different form? Are you gonna, is it gonna be solo on a Vespa still, or and what kind? Obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So we don't know when we can travel. So what's the thinking there?
So I'm hoping to leave next year in September. Hopefully the border opens by then. My scooter is still in Czech Republic. I'm going to get it re-registered, and then to continue my trip. Okay, actually my plans are pretty open. And the thing is, now I also have a boyfriend, and my boyfriend wants to come with me. So it may or may not be on the Vespa anymore.
How's that going to be? Because you're used to solo travel, right? There's a lot of merits to solo travel, but there's also a lot of like disadvantages. People to look after your stuff, or you go to the loo or something. It's as simple as that, right? All your barang
Nobody
there,
help me
right?
take photos.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I need to take Instagram worthy photos. Yeah. So I need an Insta boyfriend to help me do that.
So he's in Singapore now, or he's somewhere else?
He's in Singapore. Yeah, but I'm not sure about him because I'm ready to go. And for him, he's a bit different. He like wants to have everything ready, settled, or you have all these funds ready, then you go. But for me, it's like, okay, I have not enough money.
Don't care.
I'll
Just
figure
go.
things out along the way.
Just work on the way, right?
Yeah. So So I tell him honestly, if you're not ready to go, I'm ready to go on my own. Really, I don't want to wait for anybody. You join me when you're ready.
That's the way it should be. I'm going to put all the link. I'm going to ask you to pass me the links to your travel blog and to your materials and And I'm going to ask you to send me pictures or whatever you can so that people can see where you've been and some of the stories that you want to tell. But you'll be able to find that in the descriptors below. But thank you for doing this. Thank you for being so honest, candid, insightful. I think you've been very inspirational to everybody that will come across you now and in the future. Please continue to do what you do. You are one of the pioneers of this in this part of the world. You should continue, and I think your story will be inspirational for many, many people for many more years to come. So thank you for doing this, Juvena. It's a great honor and a pleasure.